What if a detainee doesn't pose a threat anymore, but has intelligence value? What will happen to him?
If the ARB determines that, typically we don't say no threat. We say a threat that no longer warrants continued detention. If the board comes to that conclusion, but feels that there is still intelligence value that can be gained, we will normally come to a conclusion to continue the detention.
Will they have intelligence value forever?
Wow, that's a great question. In the perfect world, no.
These are dangerous men. Make no mistake about it. These are dangerous men that were captured on the battlefield, trying to kill Americans, trying to kill coalition forces. They're members of Al Qaeda, they're members of the Taliban, and other jihadists.
Were participating in?
I don't know. They were participating in Afghanistan. Some of them were. Now, we make it a policy in the United States not to discuss the individual cases and how we captured the individual detainee.
Se onkin ymmärrettävä tiedotuslinja. Yksittäisistä tapauksista on paljastunut tietoja, jotka kertovat Yhdysvaltain sotilasviranomaisten tehneen pöyristyttäviä virheitä. Yhdysvaltalainen oikeustieteen professori Mark Denbow kävi läpi 517 vangin kuulustelupöytäkirjat. Niistä ilmeni, että alle puolet vangituista oli suorittanut niin sanottuja vihamielisiä toimia Yhdysvaltoja tai sen liittolaisia vastaan, vaikka vihamielisen toimen määritelmä oli hyvin laaja. Vain 8% vangeista pidettiin varsinaisina Al-Qaidan taistelijoina. Ja vain 5% vangeista oli amerikkalaisten joukkojen pidättämiä. Amerikkalaiset olivat luvanneet vihollistaistelijoista usean $1,000 palkkion kiinniottajille. Yhdysvaltain joukoille myytiin siis ketä sattuu, muka vihollistaistelijoina.
How many people do you think are here who don't pose a threat, who haven't conducted hostile acts towards the US or its allies, or who no longer present a threat?
None. Absolutely none.
I believe that all the folks that were brought here to Guantanamo were originally enemy combatants. They were either taken from the battlefield, off the battlefield, or they were captured running from the battlefield.
Guantanamon lahti jakaa Guantanamon tukikohdan 2 osaan. Lahden toiselle puolelle majoitetaan vankien lakimiehet silloin, kun heidän sallitaan tulla tapaamaan asiakkaitaan. Sabin Willett on bostonilainen juristi ja ilmaisasiakkaikseen.
When we first found out about our clients, it was July of 2005. They'd already been at Guantanamo for 3 years before they ever even met a lawyer. We came down to Guantanamo and we walked into the isolation cells at Camp Echo and met our men chained to a floor, and they told us they were innocent. So I thought, really, how can this be? So I contacted the staff Judge Advocate General, one of the military lawyers, and I said, my client has just told me this, is it true? And he said, in fact, yes, it's true. So when we came back to the U.S., we filed an emergency motion with the judge. We said, hold everything. These guys are different. Even the military agrees that they're not combatants. The judge immediately held a hearing on the case, and he was clearly displeased with the Department of Justice lawyers. He was saying, what's the basis for holding these men if even you agree they're not enemy combatants? The justice lawyers said, well, it's part of the wind-up power, Judge. If we have a power to wage war, we have a power to wind it up in an orderly way. And I remember the judge said, well, how long does that last? He said, as long as it takes.
Jo siinä vaiheessa Yhdysvaltain viranomaiset olivat kyselleet useiden läntisten maiden halukkuutta ottaa vastaan syyttömiksi todetut uiguurit. Mutta kukaan ei huolinut heitä. Kiinaan heitä ei haluttu luovuttaa hallituksen vaatimuksista huolimatta, sillä siellä miehiä uhkaisi ehkä vankilaakin pahempi kohtalo.
I believe that part of what happened was that in the run-up to the Iraq War, when the U.S. needed China's cooperation, or at least not its strong objection, there was a really ugly deal cut, which was, we'll collect these Uyghurs, you can come to Guantanamo and you can interrogate them. Because the Chinese have antipathy to the Uyghurs. And in fact, our clients were interrogated by Chinese military here at Guantanamo Bay. You haven't been permitted to meet my clients, even though you've asked. But the Chinese have been permitted to meet them and to ask them questions and to threaten them and talk about how they're going to throw them in jail forever if they ever get out of here and that kind of stuff. At some point, the Americans figured out they'd been had by the Chinese, that in fact these guys have nothing to do with Al-Qaeda or Taliban or the war on terror or any of that. But they were stuck. What do they do with them?